The winter solstice is also a great reminder that we always have that inner light within us. Like the sun is always there, even though it's the darkest night of the year. The sun is always there, just like our inner light, our inner guidance, our intuition, our highest self is always within us, guiding us. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited that you are here to journal with me to really help leverage the energy of the winter solstice and the new year, which if you didn't know, they're like 10 days apart or something like that. And if you're not watching this exactly on the winter solstice or on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, that's okay. Even if you're near the time or just feeling the call to rest and reflect and set intentions, perfect video for that. Now you may notice I'm in a different location. For this video, I plan to be in front of my altar, which is upstairs. It is completely decorated for the season, and it's got my crystals and my books. Perfect vibe for this video, but my son is napping upstairs, or I'm trying to get him to nap upstairs. And if you're a parent, you know nothing is worth risking waking him up from a nap. So here we are down here. We've got an ambiance, we've got crystals, we've got candles. Let's go and talk about the winter solstice. Okay, so let's talk about the winter solstice from a scientific perspective. Let's say this is the Earth, and this is the axis of the Earth, and this is the sun. If you didn't know, the winter solstice is when our axis is tilted all the way away from the sun, especially the northern hemisphere. So that is why it is so cold. That is why we have the longest night of the year. It is the darkest time of the year. And actually the sun is starting to return as we revolve around the sun and our axis starts to move. Now, some people think it's actually when the Earth is farthest from the sun. Now, that is a misconception. I think it's actually the farthest in the summer. It's a fun little science teacher tidbit for you. So, like we said, from a scientific perspective, we are seeing the longest amount of time that we are having night in the northern hemisphere. Now, from a spiritual, energetic perspective, obviously we are feeling like the effects of that. Like when there's more nighttime, don't you just feel a little bit more lethargic? You don't have as much energy. I think we all have that natural tendency this time of year to just rest more, to hibernate, like the trees outside. I'm looking at them right now from my window. They're all hibernating. They all have perceived to die for the winter, lost their leaves, and they're resting. And they're gonna come back in the spring. So I just encourage you, if you're feeling that pull to rest and reflect and just be still and go within, that is the beautiful thing about resting, reflecting, is it gives you time to go within. Just please do so. And that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to journal together, and I have some prompts to help you do that. Now, I just want to say, I know this can also be hard because even though we had that natural inclination to rest and hibernate this time of year, we have two things that are not encouraging that at all. We have Christmas, which it can obviously be very fun, a very joyous, exciting time of the year, but there's a lot of things going on with Christmas. So that can get in the way of you resting and reflecting. And then you have the New Year's Eve energy, which we'll talk a little bit more here in a second. But a lot of times the New Year's Eve energy is like, get this done. You got to change everything. You got to do. When really it's quite the opposite. I think New Year's Eve really complements the winter solstice well. I think these two holidays, I guess you could call them, at least those are the holidays I celebrate, are the solstices and the equinox. New Year's Eve and the winter solstice really complement each other well because we're resting and reflecting, we're going within, and then you can set some beautiful intentions for the new year, for 2024, or whenever you are watching this video. One more thing about the winter solstice, like I said, it is the longest night of the year. So this is also a beautiful time energetically to dive into the darkness in our life and embrace the darkness in our life. And I said this in my winter solstice meditation, which go and check that out if you haven't already. But darkness isn't always a bad thing. Yes, it can be perceived as a negative thing, but think of all the beautiful things that happen in the dark. We can see the stars. We rest, we sleep, we make love in the dark. Babies form in the womb in the dark. It's dark in there. I mean, they can see a little bit of light, but it's pretty dark, right? So it's not a negative thing, and there's so much beauty in dark things that happen in our life. And I know that sounds weird, but challenges or setback, those can be catalysts for huge changes within your life. And this is how I choose to see things. But when I have challenges or things that trigger me or upset me or things that didn't go as planned, I know those things are always happening for my highest good, and they're always happening for me. And the winter solstice in New Year energy is such a beautiful time to reflect on those dark things or those challenges in your life. The winter solstice is also a great reminder that we always have that inner light within us. Like the sun is always there, even though it's the darkest night of the year. The sun is always there, just like our inner light, our inner guidance, our intuition, our highest self is always within us, guiding us. And such a beautiful time to get quiet, still, and connect with that part of you, which we're going to do today. So let's talk a little bit more about New Year's energy. So that falls right in Capricorn season, which if you missed it last year, I did a yoga flow for each of the zodiac seasons. I learned so much from that. Whether if you want to subscribe to that energy or not, but Capricorn energy is really a beautiful time of year to just kind of like organize some things in your life. And you don't have to take massive action. You don't have to do all the things. You can be very gentle with yourself as we do this. But with that energy, it's a beautiful time after you got clear with the winter solstice and went within for your guidance to set some intentions for the new year, which is also something we're going to do today. Also, before we get started, I think it really helps to again, slow down and tune into our heart space, tune in within ourselves. So go ahead if you haven't already and just stop what you're doing, either sit down or lay down, and let's just take a few deep breaths together. So I'm going to put my hand on my heart, try not to touch my microphone, and just take some beautiful inhales. Hold it for a moment and exhale. Your breath doesn't have to match mine, but continue doing that a few more times. Remember, this season is really about going within and reconnecting to yourself. Okay, let's get into our journal prompts for the winter solstice and the new year. All right, so if you haven't already, go ahead and get out your journal. I have mine right here, my little lap desk. It's perfect because it talks about the sun and moon on here, which is so applicable to the winter solstice. But I divided our journal prompts into 3 different sections. These questions are really going to help us reflect on the year before, help us embrace the darkness, like I said, and also set intentions for the new year. All right, so the first journal prompt I have under the reflect category is just looking back on the year before and naming some things that you're super grateful for. Maybe it is things you've manifested, like physical things or experiences or relationships or new habits. It can be anything, but what are you so grateful for that happened in the previous year? So what you can do right now is you can either pause this and journal with me, or you can just continue on. All right, so like I said, you can continue on or you can journal on your own, but I just want to share some things that I wrote down really quickly. One of the biggest things that I'm most grateful for this year were all the things we perceivably failed at, and there were a lot. I've mentioned it in previous videos in the podcast. I don't want to go into every single one of them, but I just want to say there's so much beauty in failing. There's so much beauty in trying something that you want to try and failing at it and learning the lessons. So please just never be scared of that. And I feel like I'm getting more confident in that. I know that when I want to do something, I will go and do it, and I may be successful, I may not be, and that's okay. I'm here for the experience. I crave experiences. Another thing I put on here was practicing letting go and being adaptable. That was a huge theme of this year, was letting things go that weren't right for this season, letting mind stories go that weren't serving me, letting go resentments that I may have, and just being adaptable with what life is flowing to me in this moment and in this season. And I think that's such a beautiful practice, because a lot of times it's things that just align even more with you in this season, or things that are way better than you could have even imagined. And a lot of times we block them because we think it has to be the certain way. So that's why being adaptable is so beautiful. I also put, this is a big one, leaving corporate America. As you guys know, I quit my job this year, my job that I've been at for 4 years. I've been in education for almost a decade as a teacher and then on the curriculum side, and I'm no longer in that field. I am now working for myself, and I actually got a new opportunity that I'm super excited to share as it unfolds. But I just really feel like I'm stepping into the next chapter of my professional life, sharing aligning habits on here and sharing on here what it means to live an aligning, fulfilling, and present life on the podcast and on my channel. So very grateful for that. Obviously, I'm grateful for all the time that I get with Arlo, even though that can also be incredibly triggering sometimes, like when I need him to nap to get certain things done. It's, again, a huge practice in being flexible and surrendering to life. And then deepening my relationship with Steven. I think all the stuff that happened with the RV and all that this year really helped us deepen our relationship, which is another huge gift from that perceived failure. Now, if you want to take this a step further, and I'm actually going to make a video about this, but go through month by month, and you can even do this on your phone, like looking at the pictures on your phone if you forgot what happened each month, or you can get on social media if you need to. Just be mindful about your social media use and don't get distracted there. But go through month by month and just like reflect on what happened, because a lot of times things happen in the year and you totally forget about it. And you're like, that was a massive lesson right there, or that was such a fun trip, or I had such a fun time there. So if you have the time and space, go through the year month by month and just write down the things that you enjoyed from that month or massive lessons that you learned in that month. Okay, now we're moving on to the Embracing Darkness section. So my first journal prompt for you is, what challenges did you face in this year? Maybe ones that you didn't list before, if you did list some challenges in the question before. And what lessons did you learn from those challenges? So really just dive deep. This is a time to go deep. This is a time to pause and reflect. What challenges did you experience this year, and what did you learn from them? All right, so again, I'm going to share some of the things I wrote down. I put RV, but really that is like having a dream that you wanted so bad, not working out or being crushed and feeling like a lost soul. That has been a huge challenge this year. It's just feeling very lost about like what I want to do next or where I want to go next. I feel like I've always had something that I'm working towards, and I do now, but it just is I've been trying to think of the word, but a very, I guess you could say, soul-searching year for me. Like really just questioning what I want to do with this life and what is important to me, and really being reminded of my values. And obviously, like, my message on here is extremely important to me. That's why I do it. I wouldn't be doing this. I literally wouldn't have the time if it wasn't important to me. But also being there for my son and for my family and being present there. I was just like, a lot of things were brought to the forefront to be questioned. And I hate to say like being tested, but it did kind of feel that way. Like I've been being tested on like, is this really what you want? Do you really want to go down that path? And I feel like each day I'm getting clearer and clearer. And I feel like I'm going to get even more clarity on that in 2024. With that, adjusting to like being a full-time, I resist the name of this so much, but by definition, I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom. And I get all this stuff done when Arlo is sleeping, and that can be incredibly difficult when he doesn't nap when I think he's going to. Some days he just doesn't nap at all. So just adjusting to that title and adjusting to doing that full-time has obviously been a huge adjustment. I notice the more I embrace it, the smoother it goes. And I think that's going to be a continual unfolding. And what's interesting is it connects to something I'm so grateful for. I get so much time with Arlo, but it's just like everything has its ebbs and flows. Everything has its pros and cons. And it's what you focus on that creates your reality, like we always talk about. Another thing that's really come up for me a lot this year, especially moving back to the Midwest, as you know, we lived in Phoenix for 6 years, it's just like this feeling of being judged. But with that, noticing myself judging as well. And I think that's what's interesting about reality, about things that are going on around us. Like sometimes reality, or a lot of times, most of the time, reality is just a big old mirror. Like when I feel like people are judging me, I'm usually judging someone else. So judgment has just been another big theme of this year. And I'm just practicing again, being compassionate and like loving throughout this whole process. But just realizing when I'm judging someone else, realizing when I think I'm being judged, and just like breathing through it and just allowing it to like pass through me. Like sometimes that really helps me when I'm going through something difficult. I imagine that I'm like see-through almost, like I'm like a filter or something. and it just kind of like flows right through me. Like, we don't have to hold on to these stories. We don't have to perpetuate these stories, especially if they're not serving us. And another thing I really want to bring into 2024, which I'm kind of getting ahead of myself in the questions here, but just as a challenge for myself, is being confident in what I'm sharing and what I'm doing. Like I said, I love coming on here on my channel and on the podcast to share these ideas. It just feels like the most important topic, but it can be really hard for me to be confident about this in like day-to-day conversations I have. And I feel like I've grown so much in that area, but I want to continue to grow and not share it in a like preachy way, but just in like a full embodiment way. So that's a perfect lead into the next question. Continuing with embracing darkness, but how can you embody these lessons that you've learned from these challenges into 2024? And specifically, what habits can support these lessons that you've learned? So continuing off the last question, like I really just want to continue like putting myself out there in a confident way. I want to continue to do scary things. I want to continue to go after the things that feel exciting and just light me up, even if they do freak my mind out so much. And also when it comes to being judged or feel like I'm being judged, or when I'm judging someone else, just bringing as much love as I can to that situation. Like just embodying love from my heart space. Like, that's where you feel it. Like when something feels triggering or like you're being judged. I know those are like kind of generalizations, but when you feel that, just like notice where you feel the tightness in your body, and can you bring some breath to that area? A lot of times it's like tightness in my heart. So I'm just trying to be extra vigilant when that happens. Like just breathe into my heart and radiate that love into the situation. Now the last one for embracing darkness is, what can you release or let go of in this sacred time of rest and reflection? Now, a huge one for me is pressure. Like, I just feel like I'm always putting so much pressure on myself to make certain things happen, to force things to happen. And like forcing doesn't feel good to me. What feels good to me is to follow what feels exciting and expansive, do it to the best that I can, and release expectations. Just like Bashar's formula, if you're familiar with Bashar at all. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry. But if you are familiar, Bashar's formula is like my intentions for 2024. So that's a great lead into our last section here. Before we set intentions, and this has been a big thing for me too, is just reevaluating our values in this season. So before we get into intentions, I want you to journal on what are your values in this season, and have they shifted from last year at this time? And if they shifted, that's totally okay. And if they're the same as last year, that's also okay. But really consider this, tune into your heart space. Have your priorities or your values shifted in this season? So to share this one really quickly as well, I don't want to say this wasn't my priority before, but I've noticed that sometimes I can be so laser focused on sharing my message that I can lose sight of other things at times. And always, 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 my family comes first. Raising Arlo comes first. You know, being there for my husband as well, like connecting with him and making our relationship stronger comes first. And then my business comes second. And then a close third is fun. Like those are my priorities and values going into 2024. So our last one here is, what intentions do you want to bring into 2024? It could be a single word. It could be a list of intentions. It can just be a vibration or a feeling that you want to bring into 2024. Again, really tune into your heart space like we did before, and consider what intentions you want to set for this new year. So for me, there's 3 things that are very clear. Like I mentioned before, I'm just planning on following Bashar's formula. Now, I may not get this explanation right, so Google it if you want to. By the way, Bashar is just a channeled entity, a spiritual teacher. But he says if you follow this formula, like this is the formula to living a happy, aligned present life. And that is following your excitements, or the things that light you up, or the things that you just feel called to do the best that you can, doing them the best that you can, releasing any expectations on how you think they are going to go, and then just staying in a positive feeling vibration as much as you can, which we know is not the case all the times. We're going to have highs and lows. I know 2024 is going to have highs and lows, and that's okay. But just always coming back to what feels exciting and expansive. The second thing I have on here is obviously putting my family and my relationships first. Like, I realize sometimes I can get so into work mode that I'm not responding to my friends like texts right away. Or sometimes we Marco Polo, which if you don't know what that is, it's like a video chat and it's so fun. It's like Zoom, but not in real time. So we'll send each other videos, and especially my friends in Arizona, it just fills my soul to see their faces and to talk to them in that way. So really prioritizing that, because that fills my heart, fills my soul, and fuels my soul, fills up my bucket, as some would say. And then the last one on here is just embodying confidence more, like embodying my message more confidently, like being confident in my path and in my purpose, because I know that this is what I'm meant to be doing in this season. I'm meant to be a mom to Arlo, to be with him most of the time, and to be sharing this message on here with all of you guys. So I hope this was useful. Again, feel free to come back to this at any time. You can even come back to this every year, no matter how you want to celebrate the new year or the winter solstice. I think just stopping, resting, and reflecting, going within is such a beautiful practice. If you want to go a little bit further, feel free to check out my winter solstice meditation. It's not terribly long. I think it's only 6 minutes. Such a beautiful way to embody that energy. Again, you can do it at any time. It doesn't have to be December 21st. And let me know in the comments below some of the things that you realized in this practice, or anything that you're letting go of in this season, or your intentions for 2024. I love cheering other people on. Like, I love when my friends tell me what they're going after or what they're trying to embody more of, whether that's like a physical thing or just an energy. I love cheering you all on. So share those in the comments, and I'm sending you all so much love, all the highest vibes. And of course, I'll see you in the next video.